fights in under a minute and has won 13 fights in under a minute and a half. So over 43% of his wins are under 90 seconds. When Carlos fought Pat Healy in 2006, he admits he didn't take him seriously and ended up losing by rear naked choke.
Pat Healy, a tough dude, I fought him a while back and kind of underestimated him and ended up getting submitted. This is before I was in the UFC, and he was a guy that I didn't really take seriously. He's a journeyman. He doesn't have he's lost to a bunch of dudes. He's kind of hot and cold, and ended up getting choked. Getting submitted in the third round. And that was probably, one of the bigger surprises in my career.
On his nickname, the Natural Born Killer, Condit says, "I was 18 years old, a fresh young kid, and I was finishing all my opponents in the first round by knockouts or submissions. That's where it kind of came from. As I've gotten older, it's like a tattoo you get when you're young. When you get a bit older, you grow out of it, and you can't get rid of it." With regards to Condit's ethnic background, Carlos's grandfather was of Austrian, German, and Cherokee Native American descent, while his grandmother was of Spanish-Mexican and Indigenous Mexican descent. Fighting was an outlet for Condit's aggression as a teen. He said, "After my parents split up, life took some strange and difficult turns. Divorce is never easy on kids, and I had a lot of anger built up inside me. Some of that dulls as time passes and you get further away from the initial impact, but fighting was a way to channel some of that emotion and aggression." Cartoons and films also played a role in his passion for MMA.
Moment I knew I wanted to be a fighter. I don't know, man. Watching early 90s martial arts movies and the Ninja Turtles. That's what got me into fighting initially. Donatello was always my favorite Ninja Turtle, just because you could make his weapon out of a broomstick, so, pretty easy.
The second movie Condit ever watched was the 1990 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film. Condit says, "I started fighting when I was in elementary school. We didn't fight because we didn't like you or we were out to kick ass. We just fought because that's what we thought was fun."
I was probably maybe 5 or 6 years old, and I was at somebody was babysitting me, like a friend of the family or something, and me and this kid got into it, and he was, I don't know why, but we got into it. I remember just putting hands on him, and he was crying like right off the bat, and then that's kind of how most of my fights were through elementary school. It was me hitting some kid and then feeling really bad because he was crying.
Condit started wrestling at age 9. He says, "In wrestling tournaments when I was younger, I was king of the consolation bracket. I would get into these tough matches, come up short, and then just go sit underneath the bleachers and bawl my eyes out because I hated losing so much. It physically hurt me to not give my best, and I would take some time to myself to deal with that. Once I came to grips with it, I knew I had to just go out there and give it hell just to earn my way back to make something out of it. So I'd go wrestle 8 or 9 matches straight, win them all just to get 3rd place." Old school picture of Carlos. Condit started training at Greg Jackson's school at 15 years old. Carlos fought for pay for the first time when he was 16 years old. Condit also says, "Me and my friends when we were younger were getting into drugs and alcohol. I could have gone down the same path as a lot of my friends did, either not do anything with my life or worse." Growing up, Condit said that him and his friends used to throw some pretty epic parties and did plenty of fighting in the streets. At one party, Condit got in a scuffle with a big guy and kicked him, and the guy went flying through the drywall, leaving a big hole. Condit says, "Yeah, I remember that. Dude was huge and he went right through that wall." Early in his career, Condit was making around $200 to fight. Condit had one pro boxing bout in 2004, which he lost by split decision. He was supposed to fight Donald Cerrone in that boxing match, but some sort of miscommunication prevented that from happening. Condit had his first kickboxing match at age 19 against 2-time K1 World Max champion Andy Sauer, who had a 93-1 record at the time. It was under shoot boxing rules, which was basically Muay Thai that allowed some throws and standing submission holds. Condit lost by TKO via leg kicks with 17 seconds left in the 5th round. Condit said he learned a lot and grew from the experience and tweeted to Sauer, "You kicking my ass is still a highlight of my career." On Joe Rogan's podcast, Carlos said he only had to cut about 8 pounds for the fight, but had no understanding about weight cutting at the time, so he basically starved himself for 4 days leading up to the weigh-in to lose the 8 pounds. Carlos worked as a bouncer for a while and was also a lifeguard for a couple of years. Condit was an intern at the Department of Labor, and his backup career plan was was being an electrician because he says he comes from a couple of generations of electricians. Carlos loves Halloween. He thinks it's the best holiday of the year. 2 years ago, this was his costume. Last year, it was this. Condit's dad, Brian, was chief of staff for former New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson. Condit won a bonus in 7 out of his 12 UFC fights. 5 of his 12 fights have won Fight of the Night. If you combine his disclosed pay for fights and bonuses, Condit has earned just over $1.5 million. That's an average of around $126,500 per fight and an average of $216,857 a year. Condit's 18th win in 2006 came from a stomp to the face. His favorite technique is knees to the jaw. One of his most memorable knees was against Dong Hyun Kim in 2011. On his favorite kick.
What is my favorite kick? I like teeps. I like teeps to the face. That's pretty cool. Giving, not receiving, obviously.
He and Rory McDonald landed teeps at the same time in their fights.
Best part of kicking somebody in the face is the sound, for sure.
Condit was supposed to fight Paul Daly in January 2010 but got injured. Condit was supposed to fight Chris Lytle in February 2011 but sustained a knee injury. Tyron Woodley noted that Condit has the toughest chin he's ever hit. Woodley said Carlos Condit is the only one that can take that kind of punch and keep ticking. I hit him and I've never hit anybody in my life that hard. If I hit anybody else that hard, they'd be knocked out. I'd be standing over them with my hands up.
What kind of car do I drive? I have a Tundra, a TRD Tundra, and I have a WRX.
Condit thinks judging needs to be improved in MMA, but also admits that sometimes it went in his favor when it shouldn't have.
Yeah, it's atrocious. Sometimes they get it right and sometimes they don't. And I've been on both sides of it. I think that there's been fights that I won and I lost, and the judges got it right and they got it wrong different times.
And the first time Condit ever trained jiu-jitsu in a gi was in May of this year.
Thanks for watching MMA Digest. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share.